welcome back to Western Kabuki. Alex is taking the day off, so I'm producer Alex today, Caleb, and I'm joined as always by June. How are you?
Amazing. Can't wait to just like ruin my mind a little bit today. I feel like both of the things we're going to be talking about is just prime. It's a concoction that's just it'll make me just worse off, and I can't wait.
This is going to be, I think, a brain expanding episode in a couple different ways. We have two guests again, because Alex was taking the day off. So I thought we'd bring in some reinforcements. We've got Josh Boerman, the host of the Worst of All Possible Worlds podcast. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right. I am excited to bring this concoction to you, pollute your mind, things of that nature. I truly cannot wait to share this stuff that's been living in my brain with other people and thus infect you as well.
Oh God, I can't wait. That's everything I asked for, is to just be ruined slowly.
Hell yeah.
So we're talking today about an apocalyptic kind of, I don't know, we don't want to call it cult, maybe a cult adjacent group of evangelical Christians and Jews that want to bring about the end of the world through the construction of the third temple of Solomon. But before we get to that, we are also joined by friend of the show, the homie himself, Marcos. How you doing, pal?
Oh, man. I cannot wait to give your listeners schizophrenia.
Yes. Okay. Get us going, because right. I think you just posted about it. You're like, I want to give Western Kabuki listeners schizophrenia by talking about
chiral vectors.
The chiral vectors. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about chiral vectors.
You have to understand about me, right? Is that one is that like I'm hyper influenced by whatever's directly in front of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have a personality, like, so to speak. I was like, you're so cool and interesting. No, dog. It's whatever the last movie or book I've read. That's
it's like Donald Trump. You're
exactly,
like a Donald Trump type figure.
Yeah. I read, what is it? I read Blood Meridian and was a cowboy for like 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no, it's just like, it's whatever. But, no, so I've been reading the Reza Nagrestani book. What is that called? Cyclonopedia or something like that. It's a book about, it's like a theory fiction book, and it's about schizotheory brain, right? Like it's funny because he tapped into something that I've been doing for a long time, which is just combining words that have nothing to do with anything, and then just being like, yeah, we're gonna make that. That's a philosophy now, dog. You know what I'm saying?
I fucking love that shit.
Yeah. So I've been talking. What happened was, being on my podcast, The Ain't Shit Show, we've been talking, and I learned the new word kyro, right? Which is, all kyro means is that it's like your hands, right?
It's like a mirroring, like image. Yeah.
Yeah, you put your hand next to each other. It's not the exact thing. It's the same thing, but kind of opposite. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. That's how chiral work. That's what chirality is. There's also like,
it's like a chemistry thing. It's in chemistry too.
Yeah, and it's also like there's photon spin with chirality. And there's a deep rabbit hole with like chirality. So I went and like dug down deep into it and gave myself like palindromic schizophrenia by reading about this stuff. And I just came up with the term chiral vectors, because what's happening is that I'm working.
So you came up with this. You came up with
absolutely.
Chiral vectors.
I'm the first to see the chiral vectors.
I'm listening. I'm opening up my ears. I'm opening up my third eye. I am so fucking ready.
No, okay.
So this is dangerous.
What's really happening is that like I'm overworked. So I work at the post office. I've been going absolutely insane. I've been hitting like 100-hour weeks, not like 102 weeks, like 100 hours in 1 week.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's like, what I've heard about the post office. Yeah.
So and we've been mandated. So like I can't push back. It's like either you work this or you don't have a job. Those are your two options, you know? So I've been doing this, just absolutely getting my ass kicked. And like, it's making me, because I can't be online and I can't like talk and interact with all the insane, crazy people that I normally love to do. It's like making me crazy in my real life, and it's making me say things that it's just making my brain go into weird places. And so I've been like, a euphemism for me for like the schizophrenia that I'm in like inducing in myself has just been like, yeah, I'm seeing the chiral vectors, you know what I mean? I've just been, I've been, just kind of seeing them lately. But no, so what ended up happening is like how it came about is that I've been saying the word chiral all the time to Shaggy, and Shaggy's like, dude, you need to learn a new word. And I was like, yeah, man, it's pretty bad. I'm like, in fact, it's just my whole speech pattern is fucked up because like my postmaster called me because I was late for like some shit, and she was like, when are you coming in? And I was like, I can't really see an arrival vector for me. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what was the other thing someone had said to me?
Like you're just like saying shit to people.
I'm
You're just like you're.
I'm starting to like speak in poetry.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
So like
vector just becoming an all-purpose filler word, basically.
Yeah. One of the craziest things I think I said recently was one of the they were talking. It's getting hot out here. That's the other thing too. It's cooking. My brain is cooking. The inside of the LLV is like always like 20 degrees hotter on the inside than it is on the outside. And so like they were talking about like, oh yeah, make sure you guys stay hydrated. You can get real sweaty in there and like, blah, blah. So they were talking about being sweaty. And I was like trying to agree with my coworkers who are just normal human beings that are people. And
they're not insanely terminally online.
They're
like
not
you
seeing
are.
the chiral vectors is what
they're not.
Is.
Sure. Yeah.
So, like they were all talking about they were saying like, oh yeah, I get pretty sweaty. And then I looked around, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm a true daughter of Poseidon. And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? Haha, guys, gotcha. It's a TikTok
You're just like
thing.
you're a wacky guy. Yeah.
It's a TikTok. You guys wouldn't get it. You're not on TikTok. No, I'm losing my fucking mind is what's happening.
So chiral vectors is just like your current like state of being. It's like it's a state of being is chiral vector.
If you want to get into like actually what a chiral vector is, right? I've been getting 3 things have been happening to me since I started posting about chiral vectors and saying dumb stuff about chiral vectors online. Okay. And the first thing is that like I get people being like, this is a Civ 6 thing. This is from the game Civilization.
Wait, I've played that game. What?
It's how hexagons shape together. How the hexagons. So like how if you're trying to like figure out what a pathway is, you use a chiral vector, and that's what it's a Civ 6 term. So I'm getting lots of people being like, "Oh, it's Civ. This is a Civ 6 term." I'm like, "Shut up, dude!" And then I'm getting like, you don't see the.
You're operating on a deeper level.
Yeah, you don't see the chiral
gamers.
Vectors. Yeah, and then
you think you see the chiral vectors, but trust me, pal, you do not see the chiral vectors.
You'll never see the chiral vectors with that point of view. and then the other flip side of that is like other guys being like, this is actually like a very new emergent form of like tube analysis for like carbon fiber filaments. And I'm like, damn, I actually am seeing the chiral vectors. Like it's like this is a new thing that they've just discovered about like fucking like how carbon stacks on top of each other. I don't know. I'm not a material scientist, but they're talking about like, this is an emerging field.
Yeah, I'm looking at this nanotubes.
Yeah.
Nanotube.
That could fit. Fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Whatever, dude.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And then the third one is people being like, I also see the chiral vectors. Time is an illusion. We are all. I'm like, shut up, dude. I know you don't see the chiral vectors, bro, because you wouldn't have hit me with this, right? Like, if you go to the Patreon, you give me $5 or $10, then maybe you might see the chiral vectors.
Right.
Then, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, so how can I see the chiral vectors? What would happen to me if I saw the chiral vectors?
You get mad poetic out of nowhere. You just start you start saying poetry out loud when you're trying to talk to normal people, and like when people are like, how's your day going, and you're just like being like, the movement of time is a spacious being. And
it's like the end of True Detective.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. Yeah, it is. You're on some Russ Cole. You got to be on some Russ Cole shit. And, right? That's the only way to describe the mind state that the post office. Because like I was talking about. Yeah, on my podcast, I've been talking about how I've been melting down in the post office, and like I threatened to eat a guy Let's see there.
Oh God.
Yeah, there's
He's not on the chiral vectors.
Yeah, he was. Well, no, he was being super laminar, and it was pissing me off. You know what I'm saying? Like he was in a constant flow state that I can't really fuck. I don't know, dude. When I try to talk about it to people who don't see the chiral vectors, you know what I'm saying? It's.
Well, I'm gonna go on a journey. I'm gonna try to get to your level, to your state.
Throughout this episode, hopefully we can view through the lens of chiral vector, this cult of bringing about the end of the world. Josh, that's your cue. Hit us. Give us the elevator pitch on this. What the fuck is going on here? What do we got?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No. So I came to y'all to talk about this because this is something that I have been seeing online for a while. I follow a whole bunch of accounts that are to do with like weird fucking like end times stuff and Christian paranoias, I guess. Like I have
you inoculate your brain with the most insane people.
Exactly. I mean, like I have a TikTok burner account that is like at this point 50-50 on the one half, like Trump is great, we love him, and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ will tell us why. And then the other half is like genuinely unwell people making music and also just talking about how they've figured it all out, So
they see the chiral vectors.
They see the chiral vectors.
Yeah.
They think they see the chiral vectors, to be clear. They don't really see them, but they think they do.
They don't have the scripture to understand.
Right.
Well, we could help them.
They're the third type of person that Marcos told us about.
Exactly.
They're like, oh yeah, no, don't believe
They're
me.
like force sensitive, but not Jedi.
Yeah. So this red heifer shit, I heard about it for the first time, actually not from that, but from a my spouse's aunt was going on about this shit. She was like, "Oh yeah, so have you heard about this stuff with these red heifers in Israel? Apparently, they're going to bring about the end of the world." And I was like, "Okay, this is interesting. I'd like to look a little bit more into this, see what's going on." And yeah, basically, the gist of it is that right now in Israel, near the Mount of Olives, there are 5 red heifers, just the cows, right? They have been sent over from Texas with the intention of doing a sacrifice. This sacrifice is outlined in the book of Numbers, Numbers 19, verses 1 through 5. And
I was going to say that's literal biblical shit, and turns out it is.
Fuck. This is a very like edge reading of any of this shit, but basically there is a group of people who really, really want to bring about the apocalypse and bring the Messiah back in. And they believe that you have to do this sacrifice in order to make way for that eventuality. And this is a project that's been going on for years. I put in
generations, centuries, possibly even, right?
Yeah, I mean,
because I had read that they found, when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found apparently some sort of vase that had the ashes of the 9 previous sacrificial attempts of red heifers. And it's interesting to me because like evangelicals are so into this, but a substantial portion of Jews genuinely don't believe that, because they sacrificed the red heifer to pave the way for the building of the 3rd Temple of Solomon.
Right.
But that's supposed to be done by the Messiah.
Right.
And that's like why a lot of like Orthodox Jews don't even believe in the state of Israel, because they believe that the Messiah will take them to Israel. So it's like a weird kind of French thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that makes it so strange is that it is not even in like the evangelical Christian Zionist world, which is a very weird world of its own. It also doesn't have a great deal of purchase. It's just one of these things where a number of weird guys over a period of time have all made...
Started seeing the chiral vectors.
Yeah, chiral vectors are showing up.
First thing happened. It happens to the best of us, dude.
Connects you to guys. You see them along the vectors. Like specifically, there was this guy who was a really weird archaeologist And he was the one who like found these vases and claimed that the ashes inside of them were the red heifers. And that was back in the fucking 70s. Like he was talking about this for a really, really long time. And so it's this thing where like a strange folk interpretation of the Bible has coupled with the insane political moment that we're in right now in the way that Zionism like connects the United States and Israel. Yeah,
it's been around for a while because Reagan, like Ronald Reagan, was like a proponent of this shit.
Yeah,
Ronald
Wait,
Reagan
of the red
was?
heifer?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Oh
I'm not even joking about that. Like that's real.
makes
He
me so bummed
1000%
out.
believed in it and was like, "Yeah, I'm going to send." But you know that the red heifer thing, it's a mistranslation,
yeah.
right? It's because like it's not a red heifer. It's supposed to be a lamb.
Well, and there's another piece of it too, which is like they think that it's to do with the tabernacle, but it's actually referring to, if you look at the literal translation, it's not talking about a tabernacle, it's talking about a sukkah, which is, you know, like a hut basically. They build those for the Feast of Sukkot in the Orthodox tradition. It's like multiple layers of mistranslation.
Well, America is like, nah, we gotta like burger.
So these guys are just doing their own ARG at this point.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
No, it's like the most American brained thing where it's like, oh, there's multiple errors, multiple mistranslations, but this fucking Texas man is like, oh fuck it, we're gonna just do it. We're gonna just send the burger over.
Send them holy burger, dog. Bro,
Okay,
keep sending burger. It's got to work.
What are the qualification of the heifers to be sacrificed? I think it was they can't have a single hair on them that's black or white. It has to be completely red, right?
Yeah. Well,
and you can't. What else?
Well, I pulled a clip actually from a broadcast.
Is that the first one?
It's the first one, yeah.
Let's play that.
Yeah, this clip was from the Christian Broadcasting Network, CBN, and it sort of outlined what the claims are.
Okay, here we go.
These red heifers are now between 1.5 to 2 years old. To replicate the ceremony mentioned in the Bible, they need to be at least 3 years old. And within that time span, they cannot have a blemish or anything that would disqualify them for the ceremony, even one white or black hair. According to those working on the project, the ceremony of the red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and in a place that would have looked directly into where the temple stood. The land I'm standing on, bought 12 years ago, fits both of those standards.
Jesus.
Okay, so that's the standard. Very specific.
How are you going to comb a cow? Like, how are you going to?
They literally. I watched the whole where this audio is pulled from the video. There's like people that inspect them pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, but
does it have to be like a naturally born cow? Like, cause like, can we get a GMO in that bitch?
So
CRISPR made.
It's funny that you say that because like this is one of the big questions just in general about this shit is like, does it have to be something that is completely natural or not? I mean, these guys specifically think it does, but like there was another plan to rebuild the third temple of Solomon where they wanted to project a hologram over the Dome of the Rock. I don't know if you ever heard about that one. Like, there are
not. I fear.
Like, there's just a lot of guys who are obsessed with this idea of using technological means to accomplish these ends. But these particular people are very literal about everything, and so they want to accomplish everything through natural ends. So,
evangelicals tend to like to do this, like to figure out ways to like hologram Jesus and stuff. But like, it's funny because it like, then you have like a certain subsect of like Jewish people and their whole thing is they like to trick God. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you know what
I saw those. I saw one
loophole.
of the TikToks.
Yeah,
the loopholes.
The loophole. That's so cool. Like,
what was one of them? Just like there was like a rule for I forget.
A light switch on the Sabbath, so they made like a box that may or may not switch. It's so funny because it like leaves it up to chance, which is insane.
It's like, oh God won't see this coming.
Yeah,
he won't. He's not ready for this.
Yeah. That's the coolest.
That's worship a deity that could be tricked by a simple contraption.
Yeah, that's why like Judaism is like the coolest religion because it allows God to just be trickable and a gullible guy. Right?
Yeah, it's like I got you based on your own rules. Like by your own logic, I didn't do work.
Exactly.
You know?
That slaps, dude. That's
And so
That does fucking rock.
I love that.
Basically, these guys have been trying to do this project for a really, really long time. This has been an ongoing decade-plus long project. As you heard in that clip, they've owned the land now for like 12 years or something like that.
So was this project started by evangelical Christians? I would have to assume so, because Christians are the most type of like religious person that want to bring
If
about
you don't know
the end
this,
of the world.
June, the only reason the evangelicals even like Jews is because they think that like the end of the world will come about because of like Israel and Hamas, which we're going to get to, end of the world types of fighting, which we're going to get to in a second. It's all because of their version of the apocalypse.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's what I've always heard of, like where all these evangelicals will come out in support of a lot of like the Israeli state, but it's mostly a self-serving ideological thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Not to benefit Jewish people, but to benefit bring about the end times.
Well, and this,
which is very real and definitely going to happen.
Oh yeah, no, it's super duper going to happen. And this particular project is actually a joint venture between some very weird American evangelical Christians and some very weird Israeli Orthodox Jews. It's actually both sides of both religiously and in terms of nationality. That's a tag team
partnership right there.
Sure is.
So we're talking about the apocalypse. Part of that is kind of the war, through the lens of some people, the war between Israel and Hamas right now could be construed as a part of that.
Yeah.
And you, in your notes here, say that the red heifer prophecy has something to do with this. How's this related?
Yeah, well, I mean, CBS did a report about this, and yeah, Hamas actually found out about the red heifers, and they were not happy. And I didn't pull that in the audio clip, but back in January they like issued something because they were not happy to hear that they'd been doing this because again these people are very clear about their intentions, right? But what I did pull was a little interaction here that I thought was very funny between the CBS reporter and a guy named Yitzhak Mamo, who's sort of the point man for this operation on the Israeli side.
Okay, let's hear that.
So we have here, after a long research, we find in Texas.
In Texas?
Texas, United States of America.
Texas Red Angus, flying them 7,000 miles to Israel.
This is not a publicity stunt.
What do you mean?
Meaning, this is something you take very seriously.
Harry Potter is a good story. The Bible is not story. The Bible is a way of God to lead us.
Can I just say that he sounded a lot like Borat, and that made that clip a lot funnier than it should have.
Oh man.
Okay.
So you know that I don't know how well you know, or maybe this might just be chiral vector shit, but since the 80s, this project has, like, the tension between Israel and Palestine was egged on by like the Reagan administration, specifically because Ronald Reagan believed in this shit, right? And like a lot of like weapons sales and shit were in part literally, so like a lot of the reason why Israel had the military might that it did was because of Ronald Reagan being like, nah, I fully believe this shit for real.
That is
like,
so goddamn depressing.
Yeah,
isn't it? No, it's so it's just the bleakest thing in the world that so many world leaders just want the world to end. Yeah.
Maybe there's good chiral vectors and bad chiral vectors.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's why
these are like little St. James chiral vectors.
Like that, that's why they're chiral. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. You know
shit! Oh my god! Okay, I'm actually. This
see, you're starting
so
to
clear
see
to
the
me.
chiral vectors.
It's clear to me now. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so in that clip also there's from that CBS News clip, there's another lady who's like standing in front of the Dome of the Rock and she's like, oh yeah, the whole thing's gonna go. Like it's like they're just so blasé about it, and it's really upsetting to see. But again, it's just pure ideology, and it's like what happens when you get that inflection point of like poisoning your mind with that ideology and then having access to all of these resources.
It's a type of guy arms race, which is something that I've been talking about for a while. Like, right, there has been going forward like a type of guy arms race, and essentially what it is that like There's this whole like, especially in America. Well, now that America's main export is like the internet and culture and shit like that, it's even worse. But the idea is that there's always a core collection of true believers, and then behind them is a bunch of people realizing they can make money off the true believers.
Yeah.
So they double down and get crazier to like, you know, to make it go forward. And then those guys end up raising more true believers who are crazier because they got the envelope pushed by the guys who are trying to sell it to them. And then it creates this type of guy arms race. And next thing you know, you got nuclear dudes being like, you know, like going and being like, nah, the red heifer has to be made in a lab. It's a GMO. We do GMO red heifer.
I did not want to jump into this next audio clip this fast, but speaking of types of guys and people trying to make money off this, I did watch this earlier. It's a TikTok clip from a TikTok podcast called Ninjas Are Butterflies. And if you want to talk about types of guys that are getting in on this shit, this is like the type of guy that still smokes weed out of a beer can for some reason. For sure. It's like legal and you can just get normal stuff.
So you get the good aluminum. That's how you get it.
Yeah, that's how you see the chiral vector. It's the poison from the aluminum.
Yeah.
So this is two very aluminum poisoned men talking about this. And it's insanely funny. I wish you could see the video. Go look it up. But here's the audio.
Here's the red heifer. Yo, this is wild. It's written for the temple to be rebuilt. That ushers in the end times. All the tools that they use within the temple need to be cleansed. In order to do that, they sacrifice a red heifer. There's only been 9 red heifers ever sacrificed. The last red heifer to have been sacrificed was 2,000 years ago. A cattle rancher in Texas got invited with these rabbis to go look for red heifer. They found 5. The process was insane. They could never have been yoked. No one could have leaned on them. That's why it's been 2,000 years. They determined we finally found them. These 5 heifers are in Israel right now being like protected and guarded. They have 9 months to sacrifice this red heifer because they can't be like, older than 3 years old. He's basically saying like, if this happens, you know we're now in the trajectory of this end times prophecy stuff. What's crazy too, with each sacrifice, they always mix the ashes of the previous red heifers. When they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they also found a jar that had the previous 9 red heifers' ashes. Weird. Dating back to Moses.
So
okay, that's like wish.com Joe Rogan shit. I love it so much.
No, the like pacing of that was insane.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going insane
because they won't pay for like the premium, so they have to keep their TikToks short. So you have that insane editing or whatever, which is so fucking funny. It's like that kind of podcast that you see online where it's like supposed to be spooky and they use like just horrible AI edited images or something. So fucking funny.
I forget that like normal like people that aren't completely psychotic listen to podcasts all the time.
Yeah.
I forget about that. And I don't know like who would listen to that. It's insane.
The number one top fan of this podcast is just like working at Chili's right now.
Yeah,
like, he's just out there.
Doing
He's
their
just a
shit
dude.
Yeah.
But
I love in that clip though that made me laugh so hard was like that part where it's like, no one can lean on him, bro. That's why I spent 2,000 years. That's not chiral vectors. That's like the hexagons have been turned into circles.
Yeah,
the aluminum poisoning got him.
Good fucking luck tracking that chiral vector. It's not happening for you.
Yeah. God damn it. That was so fucking funny. I love that shit.
This was one where I came across, like when I was putting together this shit for the episode, I found this, and this was the first one where I was like, okay, this is going to make for a Western Kabuki episode specifically. Like this
the next
right
one
here.
You want?
This is the good shit. Oh no, the TikTok one, like those.
Yeah. Okay, that's like right in my fucking league.
Yeah.
Guys, like years of working construction of just like having to sit next to a guy in like fucking 100-degree heat in a shoe where he's just talking about this. And you're like, yeah,
cooking,
dude.
Yeah.
I'm like eating a gas station sandwich. It's like probably gonna poison me, and I'm like, yeah, dude, that's crazy.
No, but that like the guy industrial complex, is, like that is such a real thing. Like we've seen that, especially in like modern social media the last like 3 years so often.
Yeah,
like I saw that you guys are aware of that like Daily Wire Adam Carolla animated TV show, right?
Yeah.
On the most recent episode, they posted like a clip of that episode being like, hey, like a promo, like, hey, check out this episode. for like, conservatives. It's a show for conservatives. The replies, and like, so the joke was basically just like, oh, you're offended, wow, you cucked lib, is basically the joke of the clip they posted. But you go in the replies,
their one joke.
It's the one joke. But you go in the replies, like Nazis, like insane right-wing freaks, people who were raised by this like ideological force, going beyond the Daily Wire people, calling like derogatorily calling them Jews and like saying like just
I don't
all
know if
that
it
type
was
of
you
shit.
that posted this, June, but I saw somebody, there was a clip of it. It was like the gay teacher with the man bun or whatever in the clip. And then somebody, the screenshot of it was just some Nazi being like gay and Jewish. And that was it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Jesus
yeah. No, that's
Christ.
like that's that theory, that like guyification.
Well,
I forget what you called it, but that in action.
The type of guy arms race. But
yeah,
the problem that I have is that, like, listen, I've been seeing the chiral vectors for a long time. And
you were one of the first.
Yeah, the problem is that, like, I come up with this stuff, I see it way down the line, and then when I'm talking about it, people are like, Marcus, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Just be funny. Post about, pussy from an ineffable being or whatever it is that you do. But yeah, all right, yeah, you're right.
but that's like a legit theory. That's like a real phenomena that is like accelerating.
Yeah, and it's only gonna get worse. And like it's gonna get to the point now where like dudes like Nick Fuentes are not like Nazi enough.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to turn on him and be like, his last name is Fuentes. That's Mexican. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, and I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that toward the end of this episode, we've got a clip that I found that's from Rumble. And if you know anything about Rumble, it's exactly what you would expect. So we're saving that for later, but preview their upcoming attractions.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So we just got a very beautiful, delightful glimpse of how the common man views the red heifer. Let's get
That's
into
why it's been 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can't lean on them, bro.
What is this clip from? And this is
this is from something called what is it called? End Time. This is a TikTok account that's talking about the end times. And this is a very helpful, factual update.
Okay.
I can't wait. Oh my God. That's so nice of them.
I know.
Hey, we're coming up on Passover, and here's a red heifer update. Israel now has 4 red heifers that are still remaining kosher. They're looking forward to sacrificing at least one of these red heifers at Passover this year. At this point, they already have the altar built, and they already have the land purchased where this sacrifice will take place. So, could we be seeing a temple built very soon? Well, at least the gold portion of this temple could be there already. A recent rabbi has traveled to Ethiopia where gold was given for the restoration of the third temple. So it looks like things are falling into place, and we could see that red heifer sacrifice on Passover of 2024. It's been over 2,000 years since there was a kosher red heifer that could be sacrificed and ashes be collected for the purification process of Israel. Could we be looking at that being fulfilled here very soon? Absolutely we could. This is the end times, and we're living and watching Bible prophecy come to pass.
That is way fucking worse.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but Jehovah's Witnesses also fuck with this heavily too.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't get a chance to read about that, but I did hear or read.
Well, because their whole thing is like basically end times preparation.
Well, I've known about this. I've known about this like since I was a child, like the red heifer thing, because I was a Jehovah's Witness as a kid, right?
Oh, wow.
Like raised in the church. Yeah, and my grandma used to be like, no, red heifers is coming, dog. Like, big burger's coming, dog, right? Like, we gonna send the burgers over to Israel and it's over, dude. Right? But no, so like, I don't know. I feel like I got a little bit of my understanding and like the insight of like how the Jehovah's Witnesses see it is they essentially in their mind, the red heifer thing is more symbolic. The real shit is the return of all Jews to Zion, which is way more like ethnic cleansing style shit of what they're talking about, right? Like they're not saying the quiet part out loud. They're just more being like, no, all the Jews need to go to Zion and Zionism is good. But like, it's because when Jesus comes back, I guess in the Jehovah's Witness reading of what they believe, when Jesus comes back, the first thing he's going to do is just be like, yeah, all the Jews are gone. They're all gone now.
Do they?
Yeah, that's the thing with like the evangelical Christians where that's like that alliance where like they don't really care about like Jewish people because it's they're gonna die in this theory. That's like what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, one common sort of line of thought around this on the evangelical Christian side of things, and I don't know if the witnesses believe this or not, is this idea that there's going to be exactly 144,000 Jews and no more.
The anointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the anointed. Yeah. They have 144,000 anointed. So the crazy thing about being a Jehovah's Witnesses is that they misread that shit way off. Under Jehovah's Witnesses, if you are good enough, you get to be one of the 1,444 anointed.
I got some bad news for Israel because I just pulled it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2.5 million people live there. So the anointed, that's a lottery, I guess.
Yeah. You gotta be.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
They'll have to make it a lottery at this point.
Yeah, they're gonna. Well, they pick small. The guys who see the chiral vectors. We'll put them here.
How good is your flow? How good is your brain flow? Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to hear like this specific framing, this evangelical, like red heifers and in general, this way of looking at the apocalypse. How does this hit you when you hear it? Because this is the kind of thing that I know is familiar to people who grew up in weird evangelical / witness bubbles. But I imagine if you didn't, it's fucking weird as hell.
Yeah, I didn't grow up in like a really evangelical. I grew up Catholic, which like people like to like say Catholics are crazy and insane, but like hearing about all these different Christian sects and all these other types, like I forget the exact types, but like Baptist, there's like a lot of really evangelical sects that are far more crazy than Catholics. I have a friend I was talking to kind of recently. She was telling me about her upbringing, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Christian sect Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah, Seventh Day.
Yeah. And I've never heard of that before. I was talking to her about it, and she was telling me it's basically it's another one of those. Oh, we need like preparation for end times. All we care about is the end times. All that matters is like life on earth doesn't really matter that much because the end times, like being dead and going to heaven, is what really matters. So what we do on earth doesn't really. That's not life. We're not like alive right now. And like to me, like learning about how extreme, like it's just depressing. It's really depressing to me that there's so many people that resign themselves on their life, like their life on earth, whatever you might believe, to this like ideologies like that, because it's a destructive, it's a self-destructive and globally destructive ideology. If you don't think like things matter long term on earth, like that's just, I don't know. It's destructive.
Yeah,
it doesn't let you actually build a better world for people that are currently alive.
Exactly. Yeah, it's difficult, if not impossible, to come up with a good reason that you should care about where the planet is going to be at in a century if you're assuming that the fucking rapture is going to be happening within the next 5 to 10 years, which these guys do.
It's inherently like a doomer ideology, but they don't think it is. It's the problem. They don't think it is.
Well, that's why I invented my own religion. Shouts out to Babalusa. He shall humble all of us. That's not a joke, by the way. Like I went as a bit, and now it's like I believe it now.
I was in the old Babalusa group chat. I had to leave. It was a little.
Yeah, it got a little Babalusa-y in there. It got a little weird. What happens is that I don't invent these things. People just invent stuff around me, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. If you
that's my deity. Fuck it,
dude. Yeah, whatever, dude. But no, the whole bit is that like there's a big blue guy out there, and every time you take an L, he's like, "Told you," right? That's real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
real to me.
Yeah, every time I take an L,
might as well be.
got my ass again, right? And
it might as well be.
Yeah,
real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, though, the humans have always kind of had this trend towards a doomer religiosity. I don't know. Now I'm really starting to see the Kyro vectors because I'm thinking about like what Reza Nagrestani was writing in Cyclopedia. What he's writing, he talks about telluritic fluid and like how oil. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but he does talk about like doomer religion, and one of the things that he's bringing up is that like there has to be because life is like doesn't have an answer, it doesn't have this like nice little neat little bow. There has to be something cavernous that like eats away at you from the inside, and a lot of people call that like a religion, right? So like they don't plan for the future. And like there's even like, I forgot where it was, I saw recently, but there's like a tablet from like Sumeria in like 37 BC or something like that, and where a guy was just like, everybody is like farming, the world is over, dude. It's over for us, bro. It's like it's never been more over. And it's like
people stopped roaming the cliffs, the mountainsides.
Yeah, exactly. People
we're not hunting like we used to anymore.
People are writing shit down. People are like trying to record stuff. No one's out no one's out hunting anymore, dude. It's over. We're all gonna die. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I always think about that in particular, like you know, like you guys have seen a lot of these like return or like reactionary right winger guys where they'll be like, oh, life will never be like this again, and they'll like post a clip of like Halo 3 from like 15 years ago, and that's like that. It's interesting just like not being able to accept the flow of time, because like no time in history is ever like the past. Like you can pick any point in history and be like 20 years prior, life was not like how it currently is. That's just like being alive. That's just like the flow of time.
I think there's
time's not real.
What it is, I think, is it's just a form of seeking control over that which you cannot have control, you know? And this is their way of doing it. And tell you what, there's actually a guy that I found. I found a guy who...
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. No, go for it, please.
This Byron Stinson. This is the guy? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about Byron.
Well, so Byron Stinson is a guy who is from Texas, and he believes that he has been chosen by God to bring this whole situation about. I pulled a couple clips here that sort of orient you in who he is. Both of these clips are from something called Light of the Southwest, which is, I think, a show in fucking Oklahoma or something. And it sounds exactly how you probably expect it will sound. So let's just listen to these wonderful clips.
Okay, we're gonna play them back to back. Here we go.
My background was, as a child, was my family was in transportation and trucking. We had a small truck line starting back in the 1970s. I was an over-the-road driver. I wound up later in life writing a book. It's called Hot Chili for the Trucker's Soul. And I do recommend this book. It goes out to every truck driver should get this. It's little short stories. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I won't say any more about that, but I wanted you to know about that.
But I want to say a little bit more about that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad you brought it, and I'm glad you brought it up, because it is hard to be a Christian and be a truck driver.
It is. It's extremely difficult.
I love that. That's like a certain type of person's like main issue in their life. That I love that. It's so simple.
I do want to find a copy of Hot Chili for the Trucker Soul. I would fuck with that.
I would read it. I would read it.
I have a copy of it. I bought it on Kindle for like $3. I can read you an excerpt if you'd like at some point. It's terrible.
I'll fuck that. All right, here's the second clip.
Jesus came not only for the Gentile nations, but he came for the Jewish people. And at age 13, I was reading that in my bed. And as I was reading that story, I heard the Lord speak, like I hear us now. It wasn't out loud, but it was as if it was out loud. Right. And the Lord said, I'm going to use him with the Jewish people. And immediately after the Lord said that, on my right, I heard another voice, and it was Lucifer. And he said, well, he'll be a failure, because he's full of all kinds of lust and sin, things that there's no way that he could be of any use to you.
Oh, he is the accuser.
I need that last part just in my head.
He is the accuser. Yeah,
he is the accuser.
I'm going to start saying that to my enemies, my ops.
Absolutely. Also, just to sort of paint a visual picture of what this looks like, both of the people who are interviewing him in this clip are the oldest people you will ever see, and that also lends a certain delight to watching it.
I would like to imagine in my mind palace this is happening in a very soft old video, and they're wearing cowboy, at least the guy is wearing a cowboy hat, and behind him is a wall with like 30 cat clocks on the wall. You know, the kind of like this, the tails doing the TikTok. That's the vibe that I got from that.
I'm imagining. Who's that bald demon from that Cajun guy that's scary? And he's like,
James
you know what I'm
Carville?
talking about? Yeah, I'm imagining James Carville and like Paula Dean and like passing the blunt. That's what I'm imagining. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my mind palace. But you know, I see the chiral vectors.
Yeah.
James Carville, that bald Cajun demon.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know anything about it other than he's scary, dude.
He's disgusting, man.
He looks like
I'm imagining.
Is he
I'm
cool?
like a
I
bat.
don't know, dude.
No, I'm imagining. Have you guys ever seen Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yes.
Eustace. He's
Yeah,
Eustace. He looks like.
yeah.
I haven't looked at him, but he. If I look at him, I hope he looks like Eustace.
Yeah.
I mean, Caleb, do you want to pull up the thing so they can see, or is it better to just keep the picture in your head as you have it from the audio?
Should we do it?
Let's do it.
Fuck
Why
it.
not? Let's
Okay.
do it. Let's do it.
So that's the
Whoops. Was that the wrong one?
There's
Okay.
Byron.
I
Okay,
was
we
way
saw
off.
Byron.
Dude. I was way off, dude.
All right, here we go.
So is Byron the guy that's working with like that
Yes.
has the land in Israel?
That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
Look at that fucking dope haircut. That's like the guy who owns the Raiders haircut.
That's fuck you money haircut.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
he's
Mark
got-
Davis,
Yo,
yeah.
and he's got the little flap in the back. He's got the Florida follicle fountain
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
back.
and
Oh my God.
he does have fuck you money. He owns like
Yeah.
3 different small businesses that are like colossal parts of a trucking concern of some sort. So,
Well, this is kind of a bummer because I expected this to look way shittier. This has actually got production value, but he's got the money.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
Damn
just
it.
like the bar down the street
was-
for me. This
I
is
was hoping
awful.
like he
They
would
all
have
look
like a
real estate
shitty.
agents.
Yeah, I was hoping like his ranch was really shitty. Like it was like in disrepair.
No.
He has a cane. He's like very red faced. You know, like
he looks like Billy Mays, dog.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, he looks like if Billy Mays was trying to sell you holy hamburger.
So, in terms of like where this takes Byron, then with his whole deal, having experienced obviously God sitting on one shoulder and Lucifer sitting on the other, he realized he had to do something for the benefit of the Jewish people. And so, this is what prompted him years and years and years later to get into the finding red heifers and sending them to Israel game, I guess. And he talks consistently about sort of how he does this and why he does this. And it's always expressed in strictly religious terms. His theology is kind of like a weird mixture of Christianity and Judaism. But basically anything to do with the state of Israel, he firmly believes that it is under God's protection because of Jesus and the Bible.
this is just an aside, but I love how quickly he moved past and just like very casually mentioned that he heard both God and Satan. He was just like, oh yeah, no, God said this, and then Satan came over. He bounced back against God. Like I feel like normally, like I don't know, if you really saw that shit, you would be talking about it differently, right? Like that's
I don't know. Kendrick Lamar did the same thing, dude. He was conflicted. He was living in a hotel room. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, maybe it's just like an everyday sort of occurrence. It's just like whatever.
It's also one of those things where, like, because I've watched a lot of this fucking guy, and every time he tells the story, he tells it in a slightly different way, you know? So I'm wondering if there's an extent to which he's like come up with a version of the story that is cleaner and easier to tell that doesn't scare him as much anymore, because I have no reason to believe that this guy didn't have some sort of an episode. I don't think he's making this up. Maybe he is. I don't fucking know, but
okay. So I guess that was one of my other questions is do you think he's a true believer? Is this guy a true believer,
Yes.
or is he okay?
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely, yes.
He's not just grifting. He's not just like basically raising his profile or like getting money from this.
No, there's. I mean, he does have a number of different organizations that he runs. One of them is called Father's House Educational Foundation, which, as best as I can tell, is like doing Birthright but for Christians.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But it's not like any of these ventures is bringing down a lot of money. His main business is bringing down a great deal of money, but I get the sense that what he's doing is he's taking all that sweet trucking and logistics money and funneling it into this venture because he genuinely thinks that it's what God wants.
But if you think about it, this is something that happens with a lot of prosperity gospel type guys, right? Where they start out like, oh, I can make a little money off this. And then they're like, no, I see the chiral vectors now. I get it. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's I feel like that because I know a lot of like evangelical Christians who like started out as guys just trying to like, you know, bang the hot girl in church. And now they're like, no, like, I've devoted myself fully to God.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah, no, it's like starting out as just like a griper. You're one of the gripes, but then you become like an Ali London type character where you're like this insane person that people turn to as like this like authority.
Yeah,
you should. Yeah, that's like you should never cosplay as a crazy person because you will eventually become a crazy.
This
person.
is just another form of the type of guy arms race, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
absolutely. The humanity is primed for this kind of like shit. Where like if you at first it's what is it Nietzsche when he was like don't stare the people who stare into madness or whatever the fuck
the abyss it'll stare back into you.
The abyss it stares right back at you. It's the same thing but with heifers and cows. I guess it's I think about that all the time. I'm like worried about that for like I don't know listeners of my podcast. they're doing serious damage to themselves.
Yeah, but he's like I don't know what the word for it is because I stopped studying religion many years ago. But there's like a term for like Christians that still believe the fact that like or the idea that Jesus is still and God is still currently intervening in politics, right?
Dominionist, Christian dominionists.
Yeah, Christian dominionists.
Sure, yeah. But that's he is one of those, and I think in the next clip that you've got about the Iranian rocket barrage.
Yeah. He
tell us about this.
Yeah, so I pulled a clip here. This is him talking with somebody from a publication called Charisma, Riz magazine. It is basically this has been around for a long time, Charisma. It's like sort of the journal of charismatic Christianity, as it's called, which is basically like speaking in tongues type shit. And their beat is interviewing people who experience God sort of in that inexplicable way. And so here is Byron talking about what he witnessed when Iran shot some rockets at Israel like a month or whatever ago.
I'll be honest with you, John, when they said their rockets were on the way from Iran, I really expected something horrible to happen to Iran. I did not expect anything to happen bad to Israel because of the protection of the hand of the Lord over his people. He's brought them back out of the nations, and he's made a promise to stand over them for his own glory in Ezekiel 36. And so what I did when it got bedtime is I went in, got in bed, and I slept 9 hours. And when I got up, it was the most peaceful morning that I've experienced here in a long time. And there was lots of celebration on the streets, and people knew that the hand of the Lord had done a great miracle.
Does he live in Israel?
So he lives part of the time in Israel and part of the time in Texas. Yeah.
So he was just like he was so sure. He's like, yeah, they're gonna shoot rockets at us, but they're the ones that are gonna get fucked. Actually, which in a way is probably kind of true, geopolitically speaking, but not for the reasons that he thinks.
Right. And yeah,
what
like those rockets didn't hit their target, but that wasn't the hand of God. That was the fucking Iron Dome, which was largely built because of American funding. Like,
yeah,
a lot of that stems from, like, especially with dominionists. All of dominionism, or Christian dominionism, comes from the mistranslation of that Bible verse where they say, like, I will make you a great nation. And like in all nations, and with your nation, all nations will come to you and be prosperous, and the world will be joyous, or some shit like that. I don't quote me on that. The only reason why I even know that is from a house song, a house song I had gay sex to. That's the only reason why. I remember being like, this is a crazy ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm into it, but this is weird, dude.
Like the beat drop happens right after that quote.
It's like some girl saying the quote, like, and I will make you a great nation, and I'm, just pounding some guy. But anyways, the whole thing though is that, like, that quote is, I looked into it. That quote is a mistranslation because the word nation didn't even fucking exist when it was written. It was like tribe. It was like people. I will make you a great people. Like and it was more or less, if you want to go by the idea of like how the Bible was written, the Jews essentially were writing fan fiction about themselves, being like, we are so cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
yeah.
Like,
well,
yeah, like
some of it carries through too to the way that like the founding, I don't know, the lore behind all of this, I guess. Like I had mentioned previously, that fucking guy, Vandal, what's his name again? Van
Halen.
Vendel Jones, that's his name.
That's an insane name.
I just want to read something. This was I found this in a journal called Biblical Archaeologist, which is an actual peer-reviewed journal, talking about this guy, Vendel Jones, who was one of the big guys who back in the 70s was propagating this fucking red heifer shit, right? And it says, according to Jones, the Bible predicts that a Gentile will find the ashes and restore the tabernacle. His principal proof text is Amos 9, verses 9 through 12, where the prophet delivers God's promise of restoration to Israel. The key verses are 11 and 12. In that day, I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. But like I said, that is a mistranslation. That actually is sukkah, which means booth/hut, and nowhere in the Bible is sukkah used as a direct reference to the tabernacle. And so newer translations fix this error, but so much of it is built on top of, oh, well, I read it very literally in plain English, and I'm a brain genius, and I understand what all of this shit means, which kind of in a way just feels like an older version of the way that information degrades online through posts.
Oh my God, yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens faster now. And like a theme I'm noticing talking about this today is a lot of this is founded on like mistranslations and like of text. Like, do you think that even matters though? Like, do you think if there was, like this would be an ideology regardless of these mistranslations, just because people have that sort of like doomer mindset, right? Like the mistranslations are just kind of like they're just like they'll shove it off. It really doesn't matter that to them. You're saying even
the mistranslation is why it's an ideology, right? It's
okay,
right? But
do you think it matters though? Like, do you think something like this?
It's the same thing. So like it's the same thing of when you say something like when you're online and you're talking to your friends and you say like, oh yeah, didn't Kevin Spacey star in what's that movie Space Jam? And someone's like, oh, actually it was Bill Murray, and you're like, dude, shut up. You know what I'm saying? It's the same exact. Your brain is primed, like the human brain is primed for that. Like, shut up, nerd. You know what I'm saying? So like,
oh, okay, yeah.
It works both ways. But I said earlier, there's information degrades online, and I've been doing a bit about something called Dilbito's law, which is not a real word. It's not a real law. I've just been, every time someone says anything insane, I'm like, oh, you mean Dilbito's law? And like people ask me, and the story changes every time. Like, oh yeah, Dagoberto Dilbito from 1941.
And that's the thing. That doesn't really matter.
No, it matters.
Because if you sound confident enough, you give a reason. It's like, oh yeah, of course, duh. Yeah. Dilbito's law.
Yeah, Dilbito's law, dude. And the moment you say that, people will like, oh yeah, it is Dilbito's law. It's so funny.
Josh, this last clip.
Yeah.
I was going to try and find a way to segue into this, but the description is so insane. I'm just going to let you set this up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I'm just going to literally read verbatim from my notes here because...
yeah, please do. Okay.
Here we go.
Because I was going to do that. But
yeah. Do you want to read it? Go for it, please.
No, please.
All right. Is the red heifer biblical? In this Rumble debate, Byron Stinson plays Af alongside Adam King, a Zionist Orthodox Jewish podcaster. Playing Neg are a couple of hardcore Baptist pastors who think that the Jews killed Christ. And it's moderated by a guy who did time in federal prison for January 6th.
Oh,
that's the voice of reason.
Oh, that's...
Okay.
And
damn it.
That's the Don Lemon here.
This is a 2.5 hour long thing, but the clip that I pulled here is the intro, which is a different guy who is not actually in the debate at all. But just like, I guess, content warning, I don't know. This is a fucking doozy. Just prepare yourself.
This is it, dude. We're getting into the real shit.
Yeah.
Is the red heifer biblical? Can the sprinkling ashes of a heifer truly bring healing and peace? Or will it bring in the mark of the beast? Why was the temple destroyed in 70 AD? Was God mad about something? What happened to all those Jews, by the way? Are they still here today? Who really lives
Don't like the way
in
he says
Jerusalem?
Jews.
The sons of
Yeah, a
Abraham
little sus.
or the synagogue of Satan? Perhaps you should give all your shekels to rebuild the temple just to be safe.
Okay.
I mean, Genesis 12 and all.
Okay, I see you,
Could be
bitch.
a part of history. But who are you building that temple for? Jews? Jesus? Cows? Satan? Even if we know what's going to happen, can we stop it at all? Now, I know if Ben Shapiro was here, he would have already blown off his yarmulke for me just asking questions, which
that's
is
the rebel
apparently
touch.
anti-Semitic now. Just like opposing pedophilia is apparently anti-Semitic, or trannies, war crimes, interest, abortion, or supporting MAGA, America First, being white, hating crime, and probably the most anti-Semitic thing anyone could ever do is have the Baptist bias.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Had to
my
include
God,
a little bit of that music too, because it's
That
just
guy
Yeah.
is probably the most progressive guy on Rumble.
no doubt, no
actually.
doubt.
Yeah. That guy's wildly progressive. Actually.
Yeah, like-
I'm a little proud of the man.
Fucking Jewish spider sense was going off fucking immediately. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
The way he was like Ben Shapiro, his yarmulke.
He said Jews with so much funk that when he said cow, it also sounded the same way. Like he had beef with the cow. You know what I'm saying? Like there was too
my
much funk on
fucking
that,
God.
dude.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's crazy, man. Oh man.
Okay.
I kind of just like want to watch. Like, I need to know about the January 6th guy.
Yeah,
I need to know
I want to
about-
see what he was like. He's like, hold on, guys. Like some of these Jews are lawyers and accountants. Let's not go too far here.
I mean, I do not recommend that anybody watch it in its entirety or even in its partiality. But did I watch the full 2.5 hours? Yes, absolutely, I did.
How did it go? Who won? Which side won?
Nobody.
The viewer.
It's a real aliens versus predator situation, honestly. I mean, the wildest thing about it is that, like, because I watched so much of Byron Stinson, and again, this is a guy who is really repulsive in many, many ways, represents many of the worst excesses of American capitalism and, like, Christian fundamentalist philo-Semitism and all that. But he ends up coming across looking extremely sympathetic compared to these fucking guys, you know? And I also did have a moment of being like, oh, the moderator, he's doing an okay job of moderating this. And then it's like, wait, no.
That's crazy.
He did a hard time for January 6th.
Who amongst
He was
us-
one of the guys
yeah.
that Trump was talking about. One of the guys singing the songs. Like, you guys saw the videos of the songs. Like, somehow people in the jails had phones singing songs. Like, he was one of those guys.
Who amongst us hasn't plotted against the federal government, dude? I mean, let's be real here, dude. That's a crime now.
I mean, does it really matter if you believe in the end times? Like, really, no. That's just that's just a step on the way.
But like so to go further about the type of guy arms race, the thing is that a lot of this is aesthetic, right? Which is the craziest thing about all of this, is that none of this matters in a way, like in a real none of these people would actually, like very few of them would die for what they're talking about. A lot of this is aesthetic. It's an aesthetic choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice to go out in the world and present as this is what I want to be presented as, which is an even crazier, to me, that's like the most mind-blowing thing behind that. Like this Byron Stinson guy is a true believer, but like he's, and he's devoted a big chunk of his life to it, but he's like not willing to die for it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not willing.
No.
Yeah, he's putting too much money on all of it. So like it's all just an aesthetic preference.
Yeah,
which
no.
is insane.
If push came to shove and it was like, okay, Byron Stinson, you can either be like fucking, martyred for the cause right now or go back to your home in Texas, he'd fucking go back to Texas.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, what if they're like, you are the final heifer?
Yeah, right.
So it turns out it was you, Big Burger. So Big Burger was you, man.
I mean, and the other thing too is in that debate, there's a moment which I did not clip because again, the whole thing is fucking rancid. But it was an interesting moment where one of the Baptist preachers, because they have the titular Baptist bias, was like to the Jewish guy was like, so if you believe in all these Levitical laws, do you think that we should be stoning people? And it's like, but motherfucker, like you are also a scriptural literalist. Like he tries to get him on homosexuality. He tries to be like, oh, well, should we not just kill all homosexuals? Like, motherfucker, that's what you want to do. Like, you explain. One of the guys is a guy who explicitly got called out by, I want to say, like the Southern Poverty Law Center or the ADL or something like that. When I think it was the Club Q shooting happened in Colorado Springs. He was like, hell yeah, this was good. And so it's like, what are we doing here? What are we even doing here?
The thing is that when they're doing racism, they're doing it Jewishly, and that's
right. No, exactly, exactly.
That's literally you're laughing, but that's like how they feel. Like that's how it's because it's all aesthetic to them. None of it, like white people, like white nationalists can't even identify on a map like what white is. Do you get what I'm saying? That's why you have Mexican white nationalists. Like in America
Fuentes,
now. Yeah.
One of the most well-known one.
Yeah, exactly. Like because white doesn't, it's an aesthetic. It's an aesthetic choice that you make. You know?
Yeah, like whenever like Elon Musk or all these like far right-wingers are like, because there's been like an analysis, like actual analysis into why is there a lot of like non-white nationalists? And if you say that to someone who doesn't like have a lot of critical thinking, like a lot of right-wingers, they're like, oh, wow. They do with it like that like cry laughing emoji in real life.
Yeah,
that like their face becomes that because they just can't comprehend that that's like a real phenomena that like actually exists.
That's why I think I do agree. I think we should. I think I'm with the racists on this one. We should have a White History Month, but it
at least we'd start to understand what whiteness is if we had one.
Yeah, and it should start on January 6th. They don't get the first 5 days. But from January 6th on, they can do it. And we just learn about all the stuff they like, which is like,
Fuck, that's a genuinely horrifying but good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I rock with that. With it.
Okay. We have covered a lot of ground here. Do we want to give any closing thoughts here? This roundtable discussion ends on the red heifer prophecy and what we've learned today. And if not, that's okay. Josh and Marcos, you can just plug your stuff.
I'm just curious to hear from you, like where you're at and how you feel about this beautiful buffet that I've brought you. Where's your head at?
For me,
listen, so I've been quiet this entire episode because I'm of the mind that none of this matters until the Messiah returns.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just kind of shrugging this off.
like for me, for context, for me, I had only recently learned about this in any capacity because I just was like, as you do, scrolling on Twitter, saw a random post from someone I don't even really remember anymore, talking like about like, oh, there's red heifers being transferred to Israel right now. This is like a couple of months ago or whatever. Like, and I was like, what is this? And I was like going into this thread of someone like just briefly talking about it. And that was like my first exposure to it. So I really only like first learned about this at all, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So, I mean, like I don't believe in any like end time theories for any specific religion of any kind. But I just think this sort of mindset is just something like the doomer religious end times where they like it's just such a dangerous mindset because like I was saying before, if you think all that matters is bringing about the end times, you're not improving the world that anyone lives in. It's just like an inherently dangerous ideology to have, and it's like sicko brained. It makes you a worse person,
Yeah. Well,
I'm imagining one of the TSA guys like accidentally leaning on one of the red heifers and just ruining 2,000 years. Just 2,000 years.
Bro, did you just lean on my red heifer? You forestalled the apocalypse, bro.
You dickhead, bro. Oh my god.
Putting a sign, leaning.
Do not lean. No, because then you're yoking on the cow, bro.
Oh
There's
god.
nothing you can do.
How do they comb it? How do they look at the hairs? How do they
I don't know.
observe?
It's fucked up.
Yeah, no, the very
magnifying glass,
very
the
carefully.
world's biggest.
I think though, June, to the point about like how to your very good point about how it really can only be sort of an annihilationist way of looking at things. It's not a coincidence that there was this year something called the National Gathering for Prayer and Repentance, which was a day-long fucking thing in DC put together by Tony Perkins, who's another pervert who you could do an entire other fucking episode about. But basically, it was bringing together a whole bunch of mostly Christians, but also a handful of like Zionist Orthodox Jews into this marathon quote unquote prayer session that was mostly about getting members of Congress up on this stage and being like, yep, they're the good ones. They've done the prayer. And toward the end of this event, they got Byron Stinson to do a whole thing about how they're getting the fucking heifers over. And that was immediately followed up by a speech from a fucking member of the Knesset talking about the attacks, the Hamas attacks, and spreading all of the like false information about what those attacks actually entailed, as well as distorting the follow-up to it. Because this is all part and parcel of the same project. And that's really what makes it of interest to me, I guess, is, it's a big thing that I talk about with my show, where we are looking at like reactionary pop culture and the way that these things shape the world. If you can get a good reactionary narrative, it really doesn't matter what the facts are, as long as it feels right.
Yeah. I mean, that's everything we've seen in like, especially the internet era, like all these like big right-wing reactionary pushes, like just off the top of my head, because we've been talking about it on the show a lot lately, Gamergate.
Yeah.
It's in that same sort of vein. It doesn't really matter what it's about. It's a vector. It's a chiral vector to push your like It's to push the ideological project that you want. That's all it really is. The reaction is the vector.
I hate to say this, but it feels versus reels. Do you remember that? Feels won, dog.
Feels did.
It feels won like a motherfucker. But I mean,
we're in the middle of like God is Dead 2 right now. So feels are winning the war.
Yeah. No, I think the craziest thing about this whole entire thing is that, June, you were saying that you're Catholic. Like, Catholics are normal under this shit, which is crazy to think about because, like, you guys go and...
Catholic is like the end of Jurassic Park 2 when the Spinosaurus or whatever is, like, fucking everybody up. It's like, and then all of a sudden the Tyrannosaurus comes out and kills it, and the Tyrannosaurus is just Catholicism. Like, no, like, that's the normal. The insane Spinosaurus is all this, and the Catholics are the normals.
It's crazy to me because, like, the Catholic Church, you guys go every Sunday and, like, eat God. And drink his blood and shit. You know what I'm saying? But you guys are cool and chill about it.
Those crackers rock. Like, you get a little hungry, it's like, oh, a little snack time.
It's crazy to me. Like, you guys hang out, eat God, and chill out, and that's cool.
Catholics just love to hang out. Yeah.
Josh, where can the good people find you?
Well, first of all, thanks again so much for having me on. This was a fucking blast.
This was a lot of fun.
If you would like to get more of the sort of shit that I do, I am on Twitter at BoschJ. You can check out my podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, where every week we do a case study in a different piece of media. The Worst of All Possible Worlds, we're on like all the social media and whatnot. Our website is worstpossible.world, and our Patreon is patreon.com/worstofall.
Thanks, buddy. Marcos, our listeners are probably a bit more familiar with you, but plug away.
Yeah. If you are listening to this and you don't have schizophrenia, congratulations. If you do and you would like to double down on that, you can listen to us at the Ain't Shit Show on pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. I found out recently that Spotify is deboosting us because they don't want the
They don't want the
vectors.
truth.
Oh,
yeah. That's no. I think it's because we have literally shit and ass in our in our name.
Oh, you're too anti woke.
Yeah, we're too.
You're,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Too based.
We're too based. But if you want to see the chiral vectors, you can go to patreon.com/the homie collective and give us $1 or more. We're like the dollar menu of a podcast, and we also give you schizophrenia. So you get a little take-home toy. But yeah.
Awesome. And as always, if you like what you're hearing, you can support us at patreon.com